a kind hello to you. If you're here for my latest animation over on Jamcade and it's your first time here at Jamporium, welcome. This is my other channel where I'll upload video essays and behind the scenes commentary like the one you're currently watching or listening to. I'm going to be taking a look at Trick or Treat, an animation I created for the Spoopy season in the free-to-use software Source Filmmaker. To start, the video shows a very brief live action segment where I throw a USB drive in the shape of a skeleton into the air. You may have noticed the audio fades in and I'm in the middle of a sentence. Well, that's because the animation wasn't made for Jamcade. It's a segment I created for what's basically a trailer for a personal project of mine called Spooky Time, Spooky Month. It's something I've been putting together for my friend group for the past few years, and it's essentially a multimedia night situation where I stream movies, TV specials, and games during the month of October via our Discord group. So if you happen to be one of those folks wondering why I'm not available for freelance video editing work from the beginning of August to the end of October, now you know why. Ever since I started Spooky Time Spooky Month, which I'm gonna go ahead and abbreviate it to STSM for the remainder of this commentary, I've made trailer videos that I'll usually live stream to my friends, and this one is definitely the one I'm the most proud of. However, last year's was also a lot of fun to put together. I considered just uploading the full trailer video, but I figured people would be more interested in the SFM animated segments. In the actual trailer, it starts with me turning on a record player followed by a series of autumn, Halloween, and spooky media imagery. Then it shows me holding the skeleton USB, I turn around and say, "So, who's ready for some freaky features?" And that's where the animation starts. I could have easily removed the small piece of live action segment for the Jamcade release, but this transition of throwing the skeleton USB into the air and everything is suddenly 3D animated took much longer than I thought it would take. So damn right I'm gonna keep it in. If anything, the only issue I personally have is the fact the footage here was shot at 30 frames per second, whereas the animation itself is running at 60, but that's more an issue of me not thinking ahead of the overall frame rate like a dummy. Okay, now to talk about the actual animation. The map I used was SFM_Suburbia from the Steam Workshop. The great thing about this map in particular is the fact it comes with a day, dusk, and night version. This was really useful since I was able to set the scene and animate with total visibility in the daytime map, then add the Halloween lighting and render out the animations in the nighttime map. For this video, I knew off the bat, visual pun intended, that I wanted to go the extra mile and dress my favorite video game characters up in costumes, hooray! Specifically dressed as characters featured in this year's STSM. Ness was the easiest decision. Like, come on, he's a kid, he plays baseball, and his proportions are almost exact. I'm going with Charlie Brown. Not to mention there's aspects of the Earthbound Mother games that were inspired by the Peanuts. So, full circle. Someone actually had already made a texture swap mod for Smash Bros. Ultimate, but I couldn't figure out how to snag a copy of the textures, so I made it from scratch. However, not only was he the easiest choice, but also the easiest to make a costume for. All I had to do was change his clothing textures in Photoshop. For Iggy's costume, I went through a few ideas in my head. One of the ideas was to dress him up as a killer clown in reference to Killer Clowns from Outer Space, but I knew that would require more time and effort, so I stuck to characters with simpler outfits. I even considered adding the Reanimator to the watch list, because Iggy Koopa dressed as Dr. Herbert West was painting a pretty funny visual in my head. But then I thought to myself, well, what would this character, a kid with glasses, want to dress up as for Halloween? Boom, Velma Dinkley. Now, I thought it would be an easy task. I mean, how hard can it be, right? I mean, like, all I'd have to do is put him in a turtleneck sweater and a skirt. Well, after several grueling hours of transferring the model into Blender, making him a custom outfit, and bringing him back into SFM, the model didn't work out as I hoped it would. So that was several hours of my life I'm never getting back. Yippee! Animation is pain. Luckily, I had a plan B, which was to give him some Animal Crossing villager clothing, stretched and rescaled to fit his body using a plugin I grabbed from the SFM Workshop. Thankfully, that worked like a charm, as evident here. Oh, and the magnifying glass he's holding, funnily enough, is Velma's magnifying glass from Multiverses. So, good on Iggy for getting his hands on a screen-accurate prop. There's a handful of background characters and props that were added near the end of the animation process, like the mystery machine here. I knew I wouldn't be able to add like a ton of background models due to time constraints, but I wanted to at least add some models so, you know, these suburbs wouldn't feel too barren. The bat's flying transition was an idea I had while I was animating, and it's sorta a nod to the original opening of Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? While I'm thankful I was able to find a free-to-use green screen transition on YouTube, I honestly would have made one myself if I had the time, because I'm sure there's a bat model or two on the workshop. Alright, so the run Ness is doing here is the same run he does in Smash Brothers. As for Iggy, I think I was gonna animate him running, but because he's behind the brick wall, that gave me the idea to just have him do fun little jumps as he pops back up from behind the wall. And here's some familiar non-game faces. Yeah, good old Charlie Brown and Linus Van Pelt with his beloved blanket. Also, can I just say, these models are such a hassle to work with. To those that use Source Filmmaker or work with the Source Engine games, I'm pretty sure none of the bones were named properly and didn't have proper parenting, you know, just to put it into perspective. I'll give the model uploader the benefit of the doubt, though, that porting anything to SFM or any Source Engine game is a literal nightmare, so I get it. Unfortunately, the mouth movements were pretty limited, and for some reason, the inside of Charlie's mouth was the color of his skin and wasn't dark like Linus's. So my solution to this problem was to literally stuff an Animal Crossing face mask in his mouth so it would fill out the skin color inside. Listen, you gotta do what you gotta do. Ooh, okay, this one's my favorite costume of the bunch. But really quick, I don't know how many people caught this, but here's a fun little reference to the movie Nope. When you know, you know. Anyways, as some of you may know, Marowak, as well as Cubone, are my favorite Pokemons. And a similar situation to Iggy, I had a few ideas for the two of them, and I once again almost added a movie, that being the new Haunted Mansion one, just so I can dress these Pokemon up as Haunted Mansion ghosts, such as Constance Hatchaway or the Hatbox Ghost. But then my brain told me, hey man, I really want to see a Marowak dressed as Ash Williams from the Evil Dead movies, and that's exactly what I did. This time, I decided to take the model and textures into Blender and just illustrate Ash's tattered up shirt and straps directly onto the model. And you know what? I think it came out pretty damn good, if I do say so myself. The chainsaw and shotgun, or sorry, boomstick, were taken from an Ash Williams model, specifically his Fortnite iteration. When the Marowak turns around and reveals the chainsaw, I wanted to give it a little more flair, so I added a flash of red to the chainsaw in reference to the sheer amount of blood that's abundant in the Evil Dead franchise. And this little Cubone is dressed as Wirt from Over the Garden Wall. The cape is Mario's yellow cape from his Smash Brothers model that was recolored and scaled down to fit this little guy. And as for the hat, it's a bit strange what I had to do. As of me recording this, the only model that shows up on the SFM workshop when you look up Dunce in the search bar is some sort of Five Nights at Freddy's character. I thought the dunce hat this stylized Nedbear model had was perfect, so my solution was to scale Nedbear all the way down to 0%, leaving me with the hat to recolor red and give to the Cubone. I was thinking of giving him Wirt's white dress shirt as well, but again, limited on time. Here's some more characters walking in the background. Oh, okay, well, one of them at least. Also, for a split second, you might have caught this car, which happens to be Ash Williams' iconic Delta 88 Oldsmobile. I lucked out on this Witch Rosalina model from Mario Kart Tour, and I felt obligated to add Jack from Animal Crossing at some point in the background, because, like, come on. He's a cute little embodiment of Halloween. He's like Sam, except, you know, he won't kill you if you forget one or two of the rules of Halloween. Anyways, yes, now here's some evildoers. And while the selection of evildoers may seem, you know, random out of context, these villains were specifically picked because of this year's selection of movies and games in SDSM. Maleficent, Mickey's House of Villains, Martian Soldier, Mars Attacks, Henrietta, Evil Dead. Oh, and looming behind Maleficent is one of the Backrooms monsters, since I streamed the game Escape the Backrooms. Lighting this shot and the next one were a lot of fun, which is weird to say because lighting has never been my strongest ability in terms of like an overall project. It definitely helps that I was working in a 3D animated environment, which makes compositing much more flexible than in a real practical one. Probably not as fun though. There's this really great video by Blender Guru where he recreates the infamous blood elevator scene from The Shining and goes over the pros and cons of a CGI environment as opposed to a practical one. Now, I recommend watching it. I'll link it in the description even. Really interesting stuff. For each of these characters, I knew I wanted to give them each different colored lighting in reference to their respective pieces of media, but in order to do that, I used forced perspective so one character's lighting wouldn't bleed onto another character. In reality, they're standing several feet apart from each other. In the original Sleeping Beauty film, Maleficent's character, as well as her own castle, uses a ton of greens and purples, so her lighting here reflects that. For Henrietta's lighting, I wanted to once again reference the insane amount of blood that's featured in the Evil Dead movies, particularly Evil Dead 2, and the green represents, you know, like the forest or like swamp environment the film takes place in. Okay, so it had been a hot minute since I had last watched Mars Attacks, so the lighting here is based on the main promotional art that was used for the Mars Attacks Invasion line of cards. Right, and I think this ray gun is from a Call of Duty game. I just looked up ray gun in the workshop and grabbed what I could use. I really wish I found a different character, because I'm gonna be real for a second, the Mars Attacks movie sucks. I was not into it, and neither were any of my buddies who were there when I streamed it. It's like, I'm all for a so bad it's good flick every now and then, which the horror genre has a lot of, but I don't know. This movie just was not it, you know? Anyways, oh, and the Backrooms Monsters lighting represents the warm, like, yellow-orange fluorescent lighting seen throughout the first level. So for this shot, I wanted to try something with the lights and almost tell a story and help sell the fact our heroes here just got spooked. This particular choice of colors is actually a reference to one of my favorite horror films, Creepshow. The most notable thing about this cult classic movie is the fact it replicates old school horror comics from the 50s and 60s, like The Haunt of Fear or Tales from the Crypt. From its pacing and monster designs to the use of framing and colors. These colors were inspired by the end shots of the Father's Day segment in the film. Hell yeah. That's it, just hell yeah. The posing here was a blast to do, and the spinning is fun. I've always loved doing poses that involve being like in the air or falling. I just think you can have like a lot of fun with it, you know, make it super dynamic. The background felt too empty, so I wanted to try and add a moon to it somehow, and thankfully the SFM workshop had exactly what I was looking for. A flat 2D image of the moon I can scale and move around. It's funny because the moon isn't that far away, and it's honestly just a handful of feet behind the trees here. You know, like I couldn't stop thinking to myself like, oh my god, Majora's Mask, the moon is falling, you know? Also, for some weird reason, Source Filmmaker had an oopsie where there would be a certain point in height where the Cubone's cape would just disappear. I tried fixing it really quick, but it just wasn't happening. So I'm just gonna say the cape accidentally fell off and it was tied back into the Cubone soon after. So between this shot and this shot, in the original STSM trailer, there's what I could only describe as almost like a TV ad styled break where there's like an energetic announcer, which is just my voice, going, you know, like, hey, get ready for another month of tricks, another month of treats, you know, with clips and sound bites of movies and TV specials I would end up streaming. With that mentioned, the next shot of the heroes walking also has a montage of clips from movies and TV specials, in time with the music, which I'm kind of just now realizing I didn't showcase any of the games. Oh well. In order to test out the walk cycles, I made them walk in sync to the song Walk the Night, because not too long ago I had watched Megan for the first time, and that song would not leave my head. Such a banger tune. So for the original ending of the animation, during the last parts where, you know, they go like, nightmares will come, I wanted to have each of the heroes interacting with characters from the things their costumes are based on. So, you know, you'd have like Ness would be with Charlie Brown, Iggy would be investigating a clue with Velma, the Marowak would be fist bumping Ash Williams, and the Cubone would be holding a lantern with the Beast in the background. It's something like that. To top it off, on the last, you know, note, the true, you know, part would have the four walking down the street and the camera pans up to the sky, revealing the text at the end. But once again, time is an evil mistress, so I just edited some additional clips and did the pan to the sky here. And to finish off, the original end text said Jordan's Spooky Time Spooky Month, but was changed to say Trick or Treat for the Jamcade release. Thank you ever so kindly for checking this commentary video out. Once again, this channel is where I'll upload behind-the-scenes commentary just like this, as well as video essays. The channel is also home of my ongoing birthday party invitation series, which is a series of actual videos I've been making since 2016, inviting my friends to my birthday party. Very fun, very stupid, sometimes even wholesome. Do check them out if you can. I'm Mr. Martinez, and here's to the future.